Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee meeting. It's Thursday, April 10th at 6:03. I will call the meeting to order. We do have one member that is remote, and so we have to do a roll call vote for the time being.
Melissa Osborne here.
Raina Jastu here.
Gretchen Kelton here.
Melissa Gary. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Hi, Stephen Martin here and almost there.
Okay. Excellent.
Melissa Gary here. And Michelle Giarusso is here. Okay. All right. Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay.
Hi, Brian Herview, Town of Bernardston Select Board member. I just wanted to address a couple of things. Based on some statements that I've heard, seen, or read, I'd like to point out that I understand what your task is as a school committee. But I also think you need to understand the task of the town, okay? And this is regarding the budget, as is always a discussion at this time of year. Your task, present a budget that best suits the education of our children all throughout the district. Hopefully balanced budget, as it seems to be. And our task is to look out for the taxpayers of our towns and what is best for them, including school services. So you're not unique in that sense that we scrutinize every budget that comes to our town, including yours. What makes yours unique, though, is it is by far the largest. 65% of our tax dollars go to the school district. That's not a complaint, that's just a fact. But we scrutinize all budgets. Yours, unique in that sense. It's also unique in the sense that what you present to the town is what the town has to do. No other budget in town do we have to put that on our warrant. But yours, we have to. And that makes it unique also. We can put another warrant that has a lower amount, but we have to put yours. That's the law. So it makes it unique in that matter. And that's where our two worlds collide. That's where we come up with a lot of heated debates sometimes. But we have a lot of heated debates with a lot of town departments in our town. They don't get everything they need. And I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I want to point out, finally, is the district agreement. It's been said that this is going on too long. It's been going on 10 years at least. What's a few more months? I don't see the need for a rush. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other citizens' comments? Okay. Approval of minutes. So we have the first minutes of March 6, 2025. Any corrections, additions? No? Okay. March 13th, 2025.
I have a couple.
Okay.
March 13th, page 1, item 5D, fourth line, end of the line, prior to the legislative change in the, I would say, November 2024 elections versus recent. Page 2, item 4B, the bottom of that paragraph resulted in the loss of 1.1 billion. Okay. In farm funding, which impacts many local farms in the tri-state region, and the school districts and food banks that purchase from the farms. And that's it for me on that date.
Okay. Anybody else have any corrections?
On the 13th,
I was not in attendance, so that's
Oh, confirm attendance. Thank you.
I was trying to watch the film. Yeah.
Oh, confirm.
Sometimes I hide. Yeah. My own note in there. Not very often.
Okay. March 20th, 2025.
On number 4, the third paragraph down, I just wanted to confirm, my recollection was that the Northfield date was 4/15, or is that not correct?
Right here. These are regulars.
Oh, you think I have the dates backwards?
4:15, the Bernardston meeting is May 17th. Your warrant, you'd need them on the 15th, the month before?
When is your warrant vote in
Oh,
Bernardston?
yeah, that's to be reversed.
Okay, yeah,
Northfield's meeting is earlier than Bernardston's.
yeah, so the Northfield, yeah, so Northfield and Bernardston, Northfield is the 15th and Bernardston is the 30th, yeah, okay.
Good.
Okay. All right. If there isn't anything else, I would entertain a motion.
So I'll move to accept the minutes of March 6th, 2025, March 13th, 2025, and March 20th, 2025 as amended.
Okay. And it's just us here now, so we can just use hands to say all in favor.
Aye.
Okay. There we go. So that is unanimous.
Unanimous.
Oh,
Excellent.
okay. All right. So I will ask the committee if we have 3 presentations, business A, B, and C. And so I would like to move them up before the reports since we have guests so they can come and present. Is that
okay?
is that
Yes.
Yes,
Is that okay?
yes,
Okay,
no
all right.
objections.
no objections?
do
Okay.
that.
All right. Senior class.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm
Hi.
Natalie Johnson, senior class president from Warwick.
My name is Elizabeth Brown, and I'm a member of Student Council, and I'm from Vernon, Vermont.
We want to thank you for allowing us to present our senior class trip for your approval tonight. Since 9th grade, the class has worked really hard on fundraising, which has allowed us to currently have a beginning balance of almost $9,500. After all of our trip costs, which are shown on the next one after that, on the next slide, we are left with a balance of just under $5,000, which will allow us to pay for our caps and gowns and an ice cream truck and a food truck. Could you go to the next slide, please? By March 12th, each student was aware that they had to pay a $75 non-refundable deposit, which was due April 11th. Which was due by March 19th, and then another $75, which was due April 11th, or is due April 11th. So in total, each student would have to pay $150, and students were offered financial assistance. There was a parent meeting April 9th, which was to discuss the rules, the itinerary, the safety precautions, and possible consequences, which was a good time for parents and guardians and people on that meet to ask questions and get their questions answered. And then today during Pathways, there was a meeting similar, the rules, the itinerary, the safety precautions, consequences, all discussed with the students, what that would look like. So they all are in agreement that those rules are gonna work for them. And then, so these are all like the general regulations, and I'm not going to go over them each individually, but all students must be eligible to go and are eligible to go at this point for the trip this year. So just demonstrating good behavior, following the rules like they would in a normal school day, everything, same rules per usual. If there is a violation of a rule, there's going to be a consequence for it. It could be a dismissal, or it will be a dismissal from the trip. And if there's any damages, people are responsible financially for that to fix it. People, or the chaperones will, they will call the people that need to be, like the authorities, if something bad were to happen. And each individual person is responsible for their mistakes that they made. So our itinerary for the trip is Thursday. We plan on departing around 8:30, and then when we arrive at the Marriott, we will get a lesson on how to use the train, and then we will explore the city, and then at night we'll group back together and all have pizza together for dinner. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. Friday, we'll go over guidelines and get into our assigned small groups. We'll go get breakfast, go to our chosen activity, and then gather back together at Quincy Market in the afternoon to nighttime, and that'll be our Friday. And then Saturday, we will wake up, get breakfast, pack everything up, and then be back here around 12:30. Anybody have any questions?
Looks like a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
I'm curious how you chose Boston. And
Well, we were thinking about a city, and we looked into New York City, which is what we were hopeful to do, but we didn't have the right amount of money for it. So our second option was Boston, and so that is how we ended up with Boston.
it's a really great, it's a great opportunity. I think Boston's a really great city. It's a little more manageable in a lot of ways. If you're not really used to cities, like Boston's a great place to visit. A lot of fun things to do. So it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a trip that is overnight, and it would need school committee approval.
Right. Right.
I'll move to approve the trip to Boston. Is there anything else I have to say? Oh, fine.
Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Have
Unanimous.
fun.
Have a great time.
Have a great
Thank you
time.
so much. Have a great time. And no need to stay
Go
for the rest of the
Sox.
meeting.
Yeah. Thank you for presenting to us. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is teaching and learning.
Welcome, Zevi Steinitz. Zevi is our long-awaited new Director of Teaching and Learning. You have Zevi's resume in your packet, school committee and other guests. And Zevi, welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why Pioneer, why now?
Thank you so much. First of all, good evening. My name is Zevi Steinitz, and I'm delighted to be here with the school committee. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be part of this team. Superintendent Kinsella has been extremely welcoming, and I know you had to wait a few months for me to get here. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. As you can see from my resume, I'm an experienced school leader with a special passion for curriculum development, work with both pre-service and experienced teachers on instructional strategies, and collaboration. Those are sort of my passions. And when I heard about this opening, I was pleased to interview. I live quite close by. I live in the Hill Towns in Williamsburg. And so having a position in a local district was really appealing to me. I love that this district is rural, that it is comprised of multiple schools, but that it still has a small town community feeling. And so I just really look forward to collaborating with the principals, with the teachers, with the school committee, with the students, with everybody involved. I've already hit the ground running. I've been asked to create an entry plan, and that has been written, and I'm starting to do walkthroughs, interview people, meet with folks. I look forward to meeting with school committee members. I will reach out to you, and I hope that you will tell me all about your views of the strengths and the challenges in the district and your priorities, so that I can fold that in, and then later on in a couple of months I will present to you sort of a priority list and a plan. So do you have any questions or anything to ask me about my role or my experience?
Yes, I do.
Hi
I
there.
see that you've been in charter schools for the past few years, and prior to that, you were in an independent school. Can you say why you wanted to come to a public school?
Sure. I actually started my career in a public school. I was a teacher in the Cambridge Public Schools for many, many years. I was one of the founders of the Cambridgeport School there. And so I've worked in a variety of different kinds of schools throughout my career, always with the focus on making sure that students are achieving. And I believe in a diverse educational landscape, but I really wanted to come back to public schools. And so that's why I'm back in public schools. Yep. Recently, I earned my licensure to be a principal and a superintendent as well. And that is valid in charter schools as well as public schools. And I really wanted to be in public schools from now on. Other questions?
How have your first few weeks, or first week?
Or,
yeah.
I guess it's the end
What are
of
your
my second
impressions in
week.
the first week?
Yes. What was the question?
What are your impressions in your first week? Yeah.
It's an amazing team of people. I think this is a school district with just educators who really care about children and want what's best for kids. I'm really getting to know what's going on here. So my first impressions are really positive. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Emma.
right, thank you. Thank you.
All righty.
Okay, next up is learning landscape plans.
All right.
John, come on up.
I'd like to be able to get up and talk about the maps as well. Is that going to
Sure.
work?
Yes.
Well, it'd be awesome.
I'm getting there, John.
I read the talk and I
Why is it not doing my thing? Oh, play. Okay.
No, I know it's not. That's why I pointed.
John, I'm going to give a little intro.
Absolutely. I'll sit down for that.
So, welcome, John Lepore, Restoration Ecologist, former Pioneer teacher. So, I think during my first year here, at some point, I have a little thing for maps. So I'm tooling around online on the Massachusetts Interactive Property Map, and it's a GIS program. If anyone has not clicked on it, it is the rabbit hole to end all rabbit holes. And so I'm clicking around because it can show you who owns any property, And I'm tooling around NES on the map, and I realize, and then I pull out our lease. We actually lease only a small portion of this parcel. The town owns this big parcel. Wait, and then I'm out walking the land. And then I look at Bernardston and the same thing. We have a lease for this bit of property, but there are two lovely, wild, adjacent parcels owned by the town of Bernardston. And that led to conversations. And then I find the book that John had written about this property. All right, who's this person? And so we connected, and John came in. And that has led to this developing notion that you have heard about many times, that we are so fortunate. Our educators, our children are so fortunate to go to school in places where there is access to beautiful New England landscapes. And our towns, in very early conversations about, gosh, do you think we could amend the leases so that we would be the people leasing the whole parcels? The initial conversations have been, let's talk about that, sounds good. Those conversations have been put on pause until the district agreement is completed, because the leases relate to the district agreement. In the meantime, in our eagerness to get kids outside, we realized we needed to know more about the landscapes around our two elementary buildings, and so we developed a contract with John to work with educators and students in both of the elementary buildings and develop these learning landscape plans. As you will see as John walks us through, they are incredible resources. They look good, right? They're just physically beautiful. We have cartons of these in my office, and we will be delivering copies to all the towns. We've got them earmarked for finance committees, select boards, conservation commissions, the town libraries. Each of the schools will have class sets of these. So these will be distributed with the idea that they are a core learning resource for educators in the elementary buildings to help children understand where it is they are learning. And then certainly our students up here can use these someday when we have a small fleet of vans, right? And
Yes.
so, right? Yes.
Yes,
yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan.
Someday. I don't want to talk more. John, thank you so much, and please welcome and tell us what folks are holding.
Well, great. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you. I do a lot of talking with my hands, so I really have to be up here. Okay, so I can walk and talk.
Tyler's like,
Hey. So now I can only use one hand to talk with. Thank you so much. Right. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Okay, so here we are. We're going to move right through this, and I'm going to give you 2 years of work in maybe 15 minutes. So, Patricia? Many of you are familiar with the first book that I wrote for the school after I graduated from the Conway School in 2011. This was quite an undertaking. Basically, this outlines what we did both at Northfield and at Bernardston as well. It's kind of a trilogy now with the other 2 books. So today's outcome is really focusing on 2 major things, like, what can we get from these landscapes and how can we use those as learning opportunities for children, as well as ways that they can also have value in the community. Because what's unique about both of these places is that they're located near the town centers. And that's significant. So people can walk to them.
I'm just giving them copies.
Okay. Absolutely. Now, listen, can you hit the next button? That'd be great. Thanks. So the process of developing both of these books involved a stakeholder process where teachers and staff, students, community members, town commissions and boards, and there was a professional development offering. All of those contributed. Probably the strongest contributors to this whole process were the students, of course, who you will see in the books more than you're going to see tonight on the screen, student designs and student input in terms of how this, how this works. None of this would have happened without a team effort with the wonderful teachers we have in our district, who I'm very grateful to. And they really were extremely helpful. So to give you a little bit of orientation, and I know Patricia likes maps, I put this map up here for those that are not so familiar with Bernardston. Bernardston's about 25 square miles. This is Bernardston Elementary School. This property was acquired in the 1950s. And Bernardston is divided, as you know, by I-91, as well as the Fall River, and it has a number of waterways in it. It has a very unique geology, too, which you read about in the book, and there's a great map in the back of the book about the Bernardston Nap, which not many people talk about, but it's world-renowned. Next. Okay. So to get to the core of what we're talking about, the project involves three particular pieces. This is currently on the lease with the town of Bernardston. The first area is a pre-K area, which doesn't require a lot of, permitting or any kind of it really is the simplest, most direct route to getting something like this outdoor, hands-on environmental orientation. There's a red maple wetland, which was given to the town, I believe, in the 60s. And then an old farmland, which was also given to the town. This used to be a turkey farm. These, again, are located, I assume all of you know where Bernardston Elementary School is, but in case there is someone that doesn't, this is School Road. Route 5 and 10 would be over here at the end of the road. Obviously, this is the building. This is, as I said, these two parcels are town, actually all of it is town owned, but these two parcels are not presently in the town, in the lease agreement with the district. So this is the core, this is the result, this is the second part. So there's a stakeholder process and then there's a site analysis process. And this is a summary of a summary, if you can imagine that. Okay, so just to try to cut to the real core of what's happening. This is the pre-K area, which doesn't really have any restrictions on it. These two areas, as you can see by these lines, are wetlands, and they're regulated by the Conservation Commission and by regulatory with DEP. These are streams, and they're really straight, which tells us that these were probably created by people as a result of farming. So at one time, this probably was farmed as well, and it's been allowed to grow up. A visit to this place in the spring, probably starting now, it's like so alive. It's such an opportunity for community members and children to be able to really engage in this area, because it's a wetland. And many of you already know about the value and the importance of wetlands in our ecology and our relationship with the environment in providing what they call ecosystem services. This area, the old farmland, is mostly wetland. This was a delineation, or this was actually delineated in 2012. So this is an old delineation that needs to be redone. Inside of that, because it is a wetland, it has a setback of 100 feet. This area right here is unregulated and can be developed any way that the school or the community wants to without any kind of restriction. There are the red here, and these markers here indicate the presence of exotic invasives. And for those of you that are not familiar with exotic invasives, they're extremely aggressive plants that push out and will overtake landscapes very quickly when there's any disruption in the native species, and they need to be controlled. Most of these plants can be controlled manually with manual removal. But if you restore an area, you just don't take things out, things need to be put back in their place, and those would be replaced with native species. These are some of the students, I mean, this is one of many student designs. It was done by the 5th graders. I couldn't believe this. So capturing these was quite an amazing piece. I was able to come into the classroom and work with the kids and go out in the field. It was a great time. And they came up with these amazing ideas, which we try to capture in the designs itself. This is a design for the play area that I met with the pre-K, one of the pre-K teachers, and discussed. And the structures, I don't want to trip over this, these are these kinds of structures that we would have in these designated areas. For example, over here, this is a hillside, a great place for a climbing ramp. That was one of the kids' ideas. Other things like an outdoor tunnel, or a natural playground, or this patois thing is really big with the Bernardston kids. So they really want these adventure kind of things that allow them to have these opportunities. So we captured those in this design. And these are conceptual designs. They're not absolute designs. They're to give the idea and to kind of sell the idea to the school and the community and the teachers. Next. Now, since this is all regulated area, it doesn't look like there's a lot going on here, but this is the red maple wetland. And the vision is to have a kiosk and have universal access so that everybody can go in there, young and old, to be able to take an adventure into this unique habitat. So it starts with a kiosk, travel through it with an elevated trail, and at the end of it there are log seats. Pretty straightforward, largely locally resourced materials, not expensive. Yeah, that's pretty much what can be done there. And it would allow kids and community members to be able to get outside and enjoy it. Your farmland, this area here, as we remember from the other picture, the other map, this area here is unregulated. So the majority of the kind of structures, the outdoor classroom, the kiosk, this is a timber frame pavilion classroom, again, patois, outdoor patois, sand pits, these kinds of things can all be kind of kept over here. With the idea is to have a meandering trail that would move through here with things like story walks and kiosks, and at the end of it, the potential for an elevated observational overlook so that the kids could go out, or anyone could go out and just sit there and just watch what's going on and find a sense of peace. This is all located, this is all possible to do right in near the center of town, which is wonderful. So the idea behind implementing this is share this with the community members. See if there's enthusiasm and an interest, as well as to submit some detailed plans to begin to talk with the Conservation Commission about what their expectations are, what kind of details they need to be able to move forward with this project. And then, of course, the restoration project, which was basically manual work. And then finally, not finally, but kind of coincidentally, this part is pretty important. The Department of Conservation and Recreation offers a trail grant. They're due in February. That would be a great time to get started on it because it's going to take time. You have to have all your permitting in place before you start this. So any kind of work within the wetland area, that needs to be underway. So that's something that needs to happen. But their payback on that is a 75%. They will cover the cost of 75% of this kind of work. The balance of that, the other 25%, could be covered with in-kind work at a rate of about $35 per person per hour. So if you have a team of 10 people and they work for, I don't know, I did a project in Bernardston for the Charity Farm lot, and we got a $20,000 grant, cost us nothing. We actually ended up going over the amount of public work because you get into it, it's just so easy to do, it's fun. So there's your cost. So the big piece is getting started on the grant and getting that underway. That would be the cost of that. Yes, Tricia.
John, if I, thank you. I want to make sure we're framing this for school committee and our town colleagues who are here.
Absolutely.
The district invested in this project so that we could have a deeper knowledge base about the land surrounding our elementary schools. The district is not proposing to take on a major land restoration project. We are viewing this as a resource for teachers and as a gift to the towns should the towns decide that they want to take on land restoration.
So as John's talking and you're hearing about grants, this is not for us to take on, it's not our land. But in our ongoing collaboration with the town, we decided this was a worthwhile investment for the district, and we are so happy to be able to share this resource with the towns for town consideration. Just, I want to make clear, we're not proposing
thank you.
something for us.
The essential piece that Tricia was talking about is, of course, the book would go with the grant application, and that is an incredibly powerful tool to actually getting such a grant. So you have to have something like that that has a vision and has a force behind it, and that's what we've done, and we're very happy with that. Okay, on to Northfield. Okay, so Northfield, I wrote the Bernardston plan first, and was really excited about it. And then I started on the Northfield project. This is so different. Well, first of all, you have the Connecticut River here. Then you have these floodplains that are around the Connecticut River, and then you have these elevated terraces. And I knew nothing about a lot of these things, so I had a steep learning curve. It turns out that Northfield Elementary School is on a terrace, which is an elevated area that was highly desirable by indigenous Americans, indigenous people, for 10,000 years. Why is that important? Well, because they could stay above the areas where they were growing food in the floodplains in a safe location. However, this story, this history, goes very deep in Northfield, and they have really dug into this in terms of the kinds of history that between the indigenous people, the colonists, and into modern day. So I've covered a lot of that in this book that I'm not going to spend time on tonight, because I could talk about that for a couple of hours. Anyways, it's pretty interesting. Next, please. Here's a bird's eye view of the landscape. So this is the perimeter. This is about 12 acres. This is the building. If you've never seen this from the air, this is the building and parking lot. This is the newer structure here, which we'll talk a little bit more about. This is the boundary here, and you're going to see what is called a digital elevation map, which shows you a little bit of contour and slope and why this land changed so much. But I found a photograph from 1951. It was an aerial photograph. It's in the book as well, that shows this landscape as being row cropping, pasture, cattle, probably in this area here. We find barbed wire, we find farm implements, those kinds of things. Again, that's covered in the book as well. There have been a lot of changes on this landscape. It's been largely changed by human use, unknowingly, because a lot of the things that happened to this landscape happened without prior knowledge of what the ramifications are going to be. There's a railroad here, just to give you some orientation.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, Main Street there. Okay, and then you see the great pictures of the kids. The pre-K kids working, drawing, coming up with plans. And so I've kind of talked about this already, but this is the big piece about this location, is that in both the master plan for Northfield and in the open space plan for Northfield, they very discreetly say we need an area apart, some destination near the center of town for us to be able to go. They don't have that. So this is an opportunity. There's some challenges with that. Yes? These are the challenges. So the degraded landscape, you're looking at a degraded landscape and what happens. And why this happened came on in the middle of a shower one night, and I realized what had happened. Okay, so I want to show you the kind of interesting piece behind that.
The next slide.
Yes, please. Okay. Inside of all of this, there are 4 areas that I've identified. There could be more, but they don't necessarily, it's difficult to get access. Areas within this landscape that are elevated. They're called rises. Geologists like to use that word. They're just pristine areas. These are native plants. If you walk in the woods and you're walking amongst all of these exotic invasives, you're going, you can't even get through this. You get to here and you have these oaks and these ferns and this native areas. So they're a little bit higher. Their hydrology has not been altered. So consequently, they're very stable. And that's going to play a key role in this. Unfortunately, because of the condition of the site, this requires a restoration before plans can be implemented. Next. So this is where we get into the heavy lifting here. This was this edge right here was the field when this part was a pasture and this was used for agriculture. This is the line that was created in 1990. When this line was created, when this soil was pushed this way and created, you can probably see a little bit of a shadow line on this digital elevation map. That's a pretty steep angle, which tells us that this soil was pushed this way. When that happened, it changed the water accessibility for the native plants in that area. When that happened, they became very vulnerable. It's like they just couldn't tolerate the rapid change. As a result of that, this large kind of pinkish area is all exotic invasives. So the consequences of creating a larger playing field, no one had any idea. We're not trying to point a finger at anybody, but this is a consequence of that. This, by the way, is a fire pond that they created when the school was burnt in the 1940s. It caught fire, and the building burned down, and they rebuilt it, and they built a fire pond here. These are the 4 rises that we just looked at. Those are key in restoring this area, and it also provides a key opportunity, not just for kids to learn about plants and restoration and how to care for the landscape. It also could serve as a model for the community and the many communities in terms of how to deal with the degradation of these landscapes that we're experiencing now, just because we go through our day-to-day living. But these landscapes that we're living with now are not going to get better because we've disrupted them. They need to be nurtured back to a restored space. So here's the vision. So this is what they look like today, the 4 rises. Very simply, phase 1 would be eliminating the invasives. Because initially I thought, we're going to get rid of all these invasives. It's not going to happen. First of all, the cost of it is exorbitant. Secondly, you'd have to use tons of herbicide to be able to do that. Thirdly, what would we learn from that? And then we'd be fighting this battle. So the battle would begin very simply by taking these 2 islands and connecting them, and these two islands and connecting them, and then in the third and the next phase, connecting all of that. And then you have an area that you can turn into something, a park, a destination, and that can continue to expand over time. So this could be a learning platform, not only for kids, it could also be a learning platform for adults who really want to make a difference on their own landscapes. And we're a farming community, we like nature, and we want to do what's right. Next, please. So this says it all: the wildlife sanctuary, the nature-based learning, the open space, I already mentioned that, the professional development opportunities for teachers and also for lay people to learn how to restore. So the next steps are similar to what we talked about with Bernardston. Really not much different, except I love this picture. It's a great photograph. Yeah, next. And then the benefits to this are enormous. Just like with Bernardston, hands-on education, curriculum integration, recreational spaces, learning about how to take care of the land, and then long-term sustainability for the community. So really being able to move beyond just this and actually begin to expand it into the community so people can really take care of the landscape and we can keep this right, children, grandchildren, and beyond. Yeah. The vision: learning, restoration, community, approval, funding, and implementation. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you.
Wow. How long do you think it would take to do that in Northfield?
Northfield one?
Yeah.
To get to the second phase,
Yeah.
it's really tough to say. You know, a lot of it depends on the approach that would be used. Anywhere between 3 to 5 years.
That's not bad.
To get to that level, I would imagine. you know, the exotic invasives are never going to go away. They're always going to be there. So there's of this. I know you're facing that same problem, Japanese knotweed in Leiden, and it's the thing with it is you've got to have a starting point, and you've got to we need to teach everyone how this works, so that they can do it on their own. That independence that we'd like to have. But I would say I'm venturing somewhere between 3 to 5 years. A lot of Japanese knotweed, I don't have a lot of experience with it. It's an extremely aggressive plant, and there's also a lot of
Bittersweet.
Bittersweet, as you saw.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Coming up from, we never had bittersweet.
It's very hard, very hard. So in the book, there's a picture, and I dated it. One of the pictures that shows the stem of a Oriental bittersweet that has a diameter like this. Wow. And I wrote the date and I counted the years. You'll find it in the Northfield book. It's kind of interesting. So, good question. Yes?
Thanks. Well, that was a tour de force. That was truly. Just some relatively unconnected thoughts, but that you've inspired. One is I've always appreciated, as long as it's been there, the accessibility, disability accessibility park on Route 63.
Alderbrook.
Alderbrook.
Right.
And just a beautiful spot and attainable. And the folks who helped make that happen just created, something off of an incredibly busy highway, and you can feel like you're on the moon. I mean, you feel like in a different place on the way they put things together. My understanding of Northfield is, unlike Bernardston has a wonderful town common, our town common was Route 5 and 63, and that's the reason why the town owns a good apportionment up to the sidewalks. So to have another place that may be accessible from the town center would be really meaningful. And lastly, just to bring this back to our own students, by virtue of running into her father, I learned that Kayla Hubbard, who was in my son's class and who went to the Colorado School of Mines, is now finishing her PhD in hydrology at the University of Wisconsin, and most recently spent several months in Antarctica. I have a picture inside her tent that her dad sent me. So given the hydrology effect here, Kayla Hubbard, not to shout her out, hi Kayla. Yeah, but
Kayla, I'm calling.
Yeah. But I mean, given the importance you pointed to in here with hydrology and geology, I just think it'd be nice to have someone come back and or give us insight as an alumnus.
The next step is that we've already reached out to the 3 towns and said that John and I would love to come out and do a presentation for the committee or board that the town feels is most appropriate, whether that is open space, conservation, select board. So that's our plan. And again, this is our gift in a way to the towns and a tool for us to use with our students.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
John,
you
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Okay. So, reports, moving on. I don't have any reports specifically. Everything that I need to address is on the agenda. So chair report is good. Superintendent.
I have a report by the numbers. I'm going to keep doing this occasionally. You ready? Okay, 41. The number of Pioneer students who will be participating in the trip to Washington, D.C. in October.
Yes.
15% of the school is going to Washington, D.C. 7. The number of Pioneer students who travel to UMass Amherst for the joint Committee on Ways and Means hearing a week or 2 ago. 2. The number of trolls hiding under the bridge in the grade 2 production of the Billy Goat's Gruff today at Bernardston Elementary School. Calypso edition, don't you know?
Nice.
6. The number of sonotubes you installed last week to put up the softball team's brand new batting cage. 3,500 and then 10. 10 is the number of middle school volunteers in that picture who were at the Bernardston-Kiwanis Chicken Pot Pie fundraiser for the trip to DC. It raised $3,500 from our generous friends in the Bernardston-Kiwanis. We will bring that. Is that you, Mr. Herview? All right, round of applause. Good-looking guy in the top left.
That's my husband. Brandon is the
Brandon's
top
in the
left,
red.
maroon. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bernardston. And we will thank you formally, and your gift will be accepted and approved by the school committee at their next meeting. I wanted to get that news out right away. 3, the number of districts and organizations that reached out to us just this week to learn about our experience creating a cell phone-free, safe space for students in our schools. 11, my last one. The number of districts that expressed interest when we said, hey, we've got this fabulous new director of teaching and learning, and we want a professional community for her. What other districts want to have their person join with our person in a professional learning group? And 11 districts have responded.
Nice.
That's my report for the week.
That's beautiful.
Love it. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you. All right. Director of Finance.
Also with some numbers.
With some numbers.
Yeah,
Not,
Great point, Steve.
Make it
Patricia's
as
kind of
fun.
taking my brand a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Make it as fun.
No, but it's obviously this isn't about finance, but it's so great. I mean, we've had announcements that students are going to Boston, New York City, Washington, D.C. I mean, we haven't talked about the New York one, but we will later. But I mean, I went to a rural school district as well, and we went to 0 of those places. Syracuse, New York would be considered a big city for us, and I don't know if we got to visit there either. But it might have been just not wanting us to be let loose in any city. The students here are much better behaved. So, but that's so wonderful that, you know, by the time we graduate, some students will have been to all 3 of those cities on school trips. So Director of Finance report, regarding the financial report, I mean, the only thing in terms of expenditures that have changed, you know, I think that we're going to spend a little bit less money, $51,000 less than budgeted. There's, I'm not going, I probably should go kind of in order, but so that's good. We're going to spend less than budgeted. There's a new special education transportation expense that wasn't in there previously, so that'll have a negative balance. So it's just a new out-of-district placement. But overall, I anticipate our expenditure budget being less than budgeted. In terms of the revenues, there is now we've received 62.72% of the revenue budget through 75% of the year, but that's quite a bit understates the revenue. The town assessments are the second to last payments due April 15th. Once we get those, actually year to date today, it's like 70-some%. So the point being, we're right on track there, and ultimately I think we're going to get pretty close to exactly what we budgeted. And you know, with that magnitude of money, I'd like to say that I have some perfect foresight, but that's kind of some good budgeting and some luck that it's coming out to precisely, looking like it might come out to precisely the number. We do have an additional student from Warwick that joined us, I believe, in March. So that is bumping up the overall revenue a little bit more than I had previously anticipated. But overall, good news, right? We'll have better than a balanced budget and have a very small surplus, but you know, that's good because that means all of our money is being put to work instead of going to a big surplus. More good news related to the lunch report. I know often I talk about operating days, but that's one of the biggest variables that impacts how much money you bring in the food service is having operating days. March is a big month, has 21 operating days, so there was a large operating profit of $13,547.56. Every single building was profitable, and that's what happens when you have more operating days. But the good news is overall, through March 31st, we now have a slight operating profit of $849.53, and kind of similar to the revenue budget. Revenue and expenditures, you know, having a small surplus, I think it's the same thing in the lunch, right? We're not looking to have a huge surplus. We want to put as much back into the actual food and the service to the students. So it's good that we're kind of walking that fine line where we might be really close to break even, but obviously not a deficit position. So good news there. Any questions?
Just a quick observation. because I remember the bad old days when the local newspapers would have the food service budgets above the fold and the collapse that it was leading to in terms of deficits. And I appreciate that there's no such headlines because of this careful planning, and thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And Patricia and I were looking at some historical artifacts a couple weeks ago that from the Department of Revenue,
We
also
found-
having those noticings.
We're cleaning out my office and we found a letter. I don't remember what year it was, but it had a little table in the center. I think the letter was from Desi, and it was 7 years worth of mounting deficits. And we looked at it and we just thought, how? And yeah, thanks for noticing, Steve. It's different.
Yep.
Jordan, do we get any federal money from Medicaid?
Yeah, we get Medicaid money. That is.
I noticed
revenue.
it's showing a deficit, but I know they're always behind. I was just
Oh,
wondering
right,
on
and
the
that's
federal level.
I remember a couple years ago, David Young mentioning this. It's funny with revenue, when you're doing a good job, it shows as a negative, which is so basically when you collect more revenue than budgeted, it shows up as a negative, and that's just the accounting,
I
because
see
when
it
you
now.
so
All right.
it's a credit and you debit expenditures, but
I was
shows
just
up as a
thinking of the
negative.
future.
Yes,
you
yes.
know,
So
federal
Medicaid, I know.
cuts.
I would, outside of school committee, I'd like to talk about the future of Medicaid, but not here probably. So we actually received a little over $11,000 more than budgeted. So that is one piece of good news.
But do you know what percentage are federal is the question I'm asking.
What percentage of what?
Yeah, versus state. Reimbursement of Medicaid that we get as a school.
My understanding is it's all federal. In terms
Well, some of it goes into the state, and then the state, state reimburses various people. So
yeah. Well, I mean, the process for the district is right. We fill out a very large spreadsheet with help from Lower Pioneer Valley that provides detailed information about services provided, and then we get reimbursed based on that. And it's a little bit outside of my purview, but you've got the random moments in time and all that stuff about services provided. And then we get a reimbursement based on that. So every district works with Lower Pioneer Valley, submits their evidence of the actual expenses, and then gets reimbursed.
You work with someone else. Okay.
Yep.
So it's not directly through the school. Okay.
Yeah, we provide all the information to them.
You just give them the information. Okay.
Yep. So that is, right.
Grants.
All right. So, grants, I think good, good thing is no big surprises. We're just at this point of the year, basically all of our FY24 grants are very close to being expended. The exception being Title II, which goes towards mentor stipends. So those get paid out at different times of the year, but it's all spoken for. And now, as you can see, if you look at the grants that start out on the report, a lot of those grants have significant balances. Taking the 240, the IDA 240 grant, there's of a $378,990 allocation, still $293,310.38 remaining, and that's really our attempt to have good financial stewardship of those grants, right? So that as you go into the next year and you're applying for the FY26 grants, you still have money to support the programming, whether it be IDA or Title I, so that you're not using all of your FY25 money in FY25, so that then you can support it through the application process, and then your application is approved, and then you start spending the next year. So that's kind of how we manage them. You don't take your FY25 grant, or at least we don't, and spend it all in 1 year. We're trying to ensure stability, and and that we can continue funding all the programming for all those IDA and the entitlement grants. Are there?
I have something about grants.
Yeah.
So, the district, in certainly the past 4 years, and I don't know what the history is prior, we have not been aggressive about seeking private philanthropic funds. In a former life, I was a development director many years ago. I anticipate that with Zevi's arrival, there is work that I have been doing that Zevi will appropriately be taking on. We'll be thinking carefully about how to use my time. One of the areas to explore certainly would be being more aggressive about seeking private funds. Unfortunately, this expansion of our capacity takes place at a time when there will be increased pressure on private philanthropy, for sure. That doesn't mean that we can't reposition ourselves very attractively to private funders. So just want to share that. It's a thought. We have to figure out what will happen, but we're going to start looking for money.
Great.
You don't have any specific questions about grants? No, nothing to be sorry about.
I do have a question. So the titled grants, are those federally funded or, okay.
Yep.
Administered frequently through the state, but that's federal funding.
Okay. All right, just filing that away.
Does the district have access to the foundation's grant directory?
I don't know which one that is. So some of those are open source and some of them you have to pay.
There's one that's about $1,600 a year, and it's for the foundation's grant directory. Some towns, when I was in Greenfield on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters, they had multiple boards sharing an IP address to help cover the cost, and then anyone could go to that computer to look up foundation grants. But it's the largest grant directory that there is, really, and you can. I don't know. Are there restrictions on public schools for applying for grant funding, or you can? Are there any restrictions on?
It depends on the funder. So it depends on what the funder's interests are. And we are allowed to seek private funds. There's no law against that.
And when you start moving forward with some of this work, is it something that you would like help from the board, or are we allowed to help with that, kind of like a little fundraising committee, or how does?
I think we should talk about that, for sure. We want to make use of everybody's talents and experience. Thank you. Writing that one down, too.
No. Any other questions about grants? Okay. All right. So, moving on to, thank you, Jordan, to the Vernon tuition vote.
Right, so it's that time of year again. We did it at the same school committee meeting last year. So the Vermont Department of Education has now provided the maximum rates for tuition for out-of-district, out-of-state schools for grades 7 to 12. The rate this year is $19,700. Next year, the maximum rate is $20,910. As I mentioned in the memo, historically we've rounded down to the nearest $100 increment, so that would be $20,900, so $10 less than the maximum allowable amount. Any questions about that tuition rate?
No, I will definitely move that amount. I'll move to approve the 2026 Vernon tuition rate of $20,900.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. That was unanimous.
That's unanimous.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And obviously putting that into context just quickly, I mean, right, there was closer to 10 students two years ago and now 22 students. So I think that you know, when you think about that magnitude, we're talking almost
one of our
That's
Exactly.
Wasn't that interesting? Warwick and Vernon.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
indeed.
that's-
Wow.
That stood out.
So about $250,000 increase when you're thinking over $20,000 for a dozen students, and we still don't know what next year bring. I have some intel that the numbers could go up even further, but we will see.
Great. Okay, so district agreement, town and district relations. So I went last week to the 3-town meeting. Gretchen joined me. And they met with their lawyer to review parts of the district agreement that they had questions on. And they have scheduled a meeting for April 24th, which is going to be after our proposed date of April 17th, to have them come and meet with us for another public forum. So I'm essentially not posting the April 17th meeting.
Yeah.
So they are going to meet again on the 24th with the lawyer, review the questions, and review the answers that the lawyer has come up with. And then I would expect after that to hear from them to see when they would want to schedule the next public forum. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay. All right. MOU with law enforcement.
Marina, do you want to talk about it? Do you want
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is another task that has not been accomplished for many years, and it has now been accomplished. The last MOU with local law enforcement, which my understanding is every district in the state has one, was signed in 2017. So we're cleaning up, and I'd like to thank our partners, Chief John Hall in Northfield, Chief Jim Palmieri in Bernardston, and Liz Mulcahy and her team at the district attorney's office. The process was that we spoke with the DA's office. They did a review of the prior MOU. They worked with the police chiefs to send us a draft. The district agreement and community relations subcommittee met several times, and we really looked at the draft. And then I set up a call with Attorney Mulcahy. The draft, there are no substantive changes. It does include some language that makes clear we've developed a process with local law enforcement about how we make calls when there is a need for police involvement. This draft reflects that. We simplified the language. I gave you just that one example. Instead of saying nexus, let's just say connection. We made clear who the liaisons in our district will be. And the subcommittee wisely advised me, when this is signed, we need to make sure that all the district liaisons have good training in what is in here, how we operate, what our protocols are.
I'd like to offer a motion. I respectfully request that I make a motion to approve this memorandum of understanding with local law enforcement as presented.
Okay.
And I will second that.
Great. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just say it was a nice collaboration with local law enforcement and the district attorney's office, and I appreciate our superintendents being that point person for that collaboration. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so school committee governance, some stuff for us to discuss. So the collective bargaining and personnel subcommittee I've mentioned before has mentioned that it would be great if there was another member on that committee. It's just a committee of 2. And so I didn't know if anyone is interested in filling in as a 3rd member of that committee with Gretchen and Michelle.
Just say yes.
Just say yes.
I know. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Perfect.
It's the collective bargaining and personnel. So it's looking at MOUs and contract negotiations and personnel.
Not super heavy right now.
It's not super, no, it's not.
A heavy list at the moment.
Melissa will,
Thank
okay.
you.
So I will appoint Melissa Osborne to that committee,
That's great. Thank you.
okay?
Thank you.
It really will
And
be helpful to
We
have
don't
three.
need a vote for that, I just appoint.
So Taffy
but-
and I reviewed
Yep.
I put this on the list for policy.
Okay.
There's
Yep.
actually contradictory language.
Okay.
It says that you will appoint with the committee's approval.
Okay, so let's vote. So would anyone like to make a motion to appoint Melissa Osborne to the Collective Bargaining and Personnel Committee?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Melissa Osborne to the Collective Bargaining and Personnel Subcommittee.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
so that will go on
Thank
the
you. Thank
policy subcommittee.
Thank
Okay.
you, Melissa, for stepping up. It's an interesting. There's a lot of interesting things that the committee deals with, that subcommittee, and I think
work.
it is it's good work, and it's a great.
Yeah. So this is just a reminder. Some of us took the charting the course long time ago, no, a while ago. But as a role of school committee membership, there's a lot of discussion about our roles, first and foremost, of being a member as a district representative first, and that where we are voted for in our town is secondary. So I am not a Bernardston representative. I am a member of the school committee who happens to be voted from Bernardston, from the town. So with that being said, if requests come to you as an individual because you are a Northfield resident and they want you to come speak before the Northfield board, it's actually on the school committee chair to be the spokesperson for the school committee. And so they can't demand, or, anyone can request anything. But the protocol goes by, it's the school committee chair. If we want to come up with something else, if somebody else would like to be the spokesperson, no? Okay, that's fine. Then the committee can have that discussion and have that. But I wanted to just kind of remind everyone that if that request does come through, that the spokesperson does land on the chair. Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay. All right. Okay, school committee advocacy and engagement. MASC Day on the Hill. Were you going to speak about that?
I don't know a ton, but I know we might try and bring kids.
Yes. So MASC does an event where they strategically go to the Capitol and they advocate for student funding. And so I can't participate that day, but they are looking for school committee. This is in partnership with Mohawk.
Yeah, Mohawk is going to run a bus.
They're going to run a bus. And so students could go, school committee members could go. You get to go meet and kind of lobby with representatives, and it's an event. It's on a Tuesday. So I didn't know if anyone was interested in doing that, participating.
Isn't that a Wednesday?
Is it 5/7?
5/7, I
know
believe,
it's
is a Wednesday.
Okay.
So it must be the
Wednesday.
6th.
It might be the
So it might be
6th.
the 6th then, because I know it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's the
Probably
6th.
Yeah.
Are there initiatives that would be helpful if someone did go to lobby for that we're trying to work on?
So MASC puts together like kind of a platform.
Oh, cool.
And so you just kind of follow along with what, yes,
Really? Yeah,
right.
okay, great.
Yes, you support what the MASC kind of platform is. Yeah. Yep.
And I think rural funding, is at the top of the list.
Tuesday, May 6th. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Tuesday, May 6th. Sorry.
Okay. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yep. So it's a You'll be out
So
of the country. There you go.
that would
That
make
is-
it hard
And
to
we're
get to
talking
school
with Principal
committee that
Scanlon,
week.
Amy, we might try and get some students and teachers to go.
Yeah.
Just I'll
That'd be
let you know.
great.
It's a great experience for students.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then,
And then the MASC, MAS, do we have a?
there's nothing about it.
No.
You want me to-
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay,
if you
so, no, you go ahead. You-
Okay. The MASC and the MASS is a joint conference between school committees and superintendents. I go to this conference every year. We have put in a proposal to actually run one of the workshops. And the workshop is about how we run our meetings with these memos and how we are able to get information to the school committee with the memos ahead of time, and the organization of how our committee is structured. Anything else?
Yeah, and how school committee materials are archived online. I've talked to you about this before. I think we've got the best system going.
Yeah. So it's basically the
The calendar, the planning calendar.
planning calendar, how our internal kind of structures are. And so we have a panel set up where it would be Patricia, myself, Taffy, and Jordan. But we are looking to see if anyone is interested in going and would be the moderator. And so the moderator is the person who would just kind of introduce it to everybody and key us up for the presentation.
That sounds fun.
And then, and then at the end, when people have questions, you just hold the microphone and say, here you go, here's the question, here's the, do you have the dates of when this is?
Yeah, let's see.
It's usually in
It's usually in the
November.
fall. It's in November.
It's,
Yeah.
I think it's the week of Veterans Day. Let's see. November 12th through 14th. Yeah, Veterans Day is 11th, the Tuesday. So 12, 13, 14, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
And where is it?
It's in
usually in
Hyannis.
Hyannis,
Hyannis at the,
The Emerald
the,
Isle.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's in the
Emerald
same
Resort.
place.
Yeah.
It's the same place where school committee has their big, not school committee, excuse me, student council has their
Oh, right,
big
yeah.
annual. It's the same place.
I could potentially go.
Okay.
It's a great conference.
It's a
I've
great conference.
gone the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We went
Yeah.
last year, and it's a good.
You'd be a
So
great moderator.
you'd be a great moderator.
Love to be a moderator.
Yeah. Yeah. So this, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
could have as many school committee members go, attend as, as wanted.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
We budget for
Unless you
this.
want to be the
Yep.
moderator.
Pardon?
Unless you want to be the moderator.
No.
Yeah, so
Dress
this is a budgeted professional development for school committee members to go, and so your
The
hotel, your registration and hotel is taken care of by the district. I think mileage is too. But
Mileage is, yep.
I never.
I know. I
always
know.
forget.
I'm going to put my union colleagues on the spot over there.
I always forget.
We have to pay attention now.
Well, speaking of presentations, so I actually asked my colleagues the other day during one of our monthly meetings if they might be interested in, at some point, sharing what we have learned with each other about how to organize ourselves, how to meet, how to document our meetings, how to work collaboratively, because we all have the same goals, which is great education, stable, well-compensated workforce, good culture. So know that we're talking about this. At this point, our district is doing so well in so many ways. It is time for us to raise our profile and see how that benefits us.
Do you know if the proposal has been approved?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, so we haven't gotten an approval. So it was part of the application was to have a moderator, and we just did
I'll add that.
TBD.
Yep. I'll let you
Yeah.
know.
I'm not to keep adding ideas, but and I don't know. We may be out of the window, but it strikes me another collaboration was the cell phone policy.
Yes.
In a pretty deep way among colleagues and students and
Yeah.
the community. And if you were to ever propose that for something, I think it would be accepted.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we were asked to present actually in June down in Hampden County, but it's a day we can't. But I agree. I think that's another collaboration that would be good to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm serious. They're trying to figure it out. They're mandating it, but they haven't. There's no solution. They're just saying everyone has to do it. Maybe there's an opportunity to present some
Consulting
districts.
fees for Pioneer District.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Gifts to the schools.
Yep, great community support for these trips. Obviously, Patricia was talking about Washington, D.C. earlier, and this is the New York one to Broadway. And we have several more generous donations. Up Till Dawn Cookies, $625, First Light Energy, $500, Greenfield Cooperative Bank, $250, an anonymous donor, $50, and we also hear there's going to a few more will trickle in, I think, over the next days and weeks. And I think, compared to prior years, this is the most support we've seen for any individual trip. Certainly there's a lot more of these donations, and that's really great. So thank you to all the donors, and we'll do, obviously, a formal thank you as well. But I would like to request school committee consider approval of the following motion below. So
I'll make the motion to accept the donations of $625 from Up Till Dawn Cookies, $500 from First Light Energy, $250 from Greenfield Cooperative Bank, and $50 from an anonymous donor, and deposit the money in the PVRS student activity account to fund expenses related to the middle school field trip to New York City at Pioneer Valley Regional School.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Oh. Do you want to do that? You want me to do it?
Yeah.
You do it. You start. Yeah, you go.
So we also have a second gift. Maren made this nice memo. And this really came through a professional development facilitator. So we had this great professional development, and during that there was discussion with Tom Murphy regarding these indoor play structures. And I think that, anybody who's been in school knows that there's certain times of the year where you end up not being able to get outside. We had a real winter again, and then spring comes, and sometimes there's super rainy days. And wouldn't it be great to have something that's, bespoke, handcrafted by a local craftsperson? How cool is that? And ultimately, through, I'm sure, the powers of persuasion and good ideas, Maren was able to convince Mr. Murphy to donate a play structure that's worth $5,500, which, if anybody looks at those catalogs, is probably cheap. You can easily see those things especially with this type of material, right? Actually, nice hardwood, $5,500. You could easily see $20,000 price tag on this type of stuff, and it's like completely, handcrafted, bespoke, all that stuff. What a cool thing, and it looks amazing. So much thought put in that. How do you intelligently use space and make it so, like, probably 15 little kids can be playing on that all at once. So this is super cool, and obviously not only is it designed by a super talented person, but by a person who's knowledgeable about how students move and all that stuff. So we would like to accept this super generous gift. And there is a request for approval and a suggested motion.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept the donation of the Bogan Playscape, valued at $5,500 for use in the Northfield Elementary School preschool classroom.
Discussion? Yes.
Wood job.
Wood job.
Is there a possibility of having our students by video or in person sort of understand how something like this is built?
And in addition to making these cool structures, this gentleman makes occupational therapy toys and like I'm pointing at Mrs. Keir because the other day I was there and there were little kids pulling a lovely wooden wagon that had plastic bottles of colored water, and he had made this, and it's an occupational therapy tool for kids to go take a break and pull something heavy and move it around. And he makes these cool balance beamy type. It is perfect for our students to emulate. So yes, we have thought about it. We have to figure out how to make it happen.
I'm just so impressed that someone with this kind, a business owner who has these skills and sells these is donating it to our school, and that's it was very meaningful to read that and be like, he's what? He's donating this to us, and
He's amazing.
I think that's just
I
wonderful.
know him because he helped our family, and everyone with a small child should have the opportunity to go to an occupational therapist. This man moved mountains for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's amazing. Very passionate.
So I just, I really appreciate, the generosity and feel really, our district is really lucky to be the recipient of this kind of generosity.
Like a plaque that goes near the structure.
Yeah.
For, the donation.
Don't think about it.
Just a thought. I mean,
Yeah.
it is significant.
Yeah.
It's very moving.
Wooden plaque.
Yeah, a little wooden pie. Yeah, right. Thank you.
What do you call it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not me.
Okay, so I will call the vote. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Yes, that was unanimous.
Thank you so much. Randy, you want to do policy?
Second reading.
Sure. This is a second reading of the policy on policy DD on funding proposals and applications. We did have a first reading, I believe, on February 14th. There were no changes recommended at that time. This is really just allowing our talented administrative team to apply for funding and to streamline that application process.
I want to point out again that on that page, at the last short paragraph above the red text, the paragraph that begins on the front page, should school committee approve the updated policy? What we would do is that the Director of Finance and Operations would include a standing item. So that's how you would know. Identifying grant awards received in the prior month and asking for approval. So that would be the structure by which we make sure we're complying with the policy.
So school committee would still be accepting the funds, but we would be giving the administrative team the ability to just apply for any funding that they thought would be appropriate. So.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make the motion to approve policy DD, funding proposals as presented, to become effective April 14th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, the Eversource retroactive bill.
Oh. Surprising my colleague here. So this is a bad situation. I think that to put it into context, there are some bright lights here that show our district in a positive light, but it's a bad situation. And the situation is, right, Eversource did some projects, and I get into the structure of the projects, but anyways, energy efficiency projects, right? And the structure of them, right? Eversource, the projects paid partly by Eversource, and then paid partly through higher future energy bills, right? You're charged overtime on your energy bill. And what happened is, although the work was done in 2019, the first time we heard anything truly anything about the projects was this fall, and it wasn't from Eversource. It was through a conversation with the town administrator in Northfield, Andrea Lamas, to inform us of conversations that she had with Eversource about these bills. So there were numerous projects authorized by the town of Northfield in Northfield buildings, including NES, and then there was a project also authorized by the town of Northfield at PVRS. But these projects were never invoiced, never billed by Eversource from 2019 till this winter. But a little more about the background, right? So as I alluded to, the projects weren't approved by the district. And the bright light of this, I would say, comes, in that as Patricia mentioned, and under her leadership, the district has improved administratively to the point where we know this type of thing wouldn't happen anymore. But at that time, it sounds like the town of Northfield was interested in partnering with the district to do these projects. Only, one in a town-owned building, NES, and one in a district-owned building, but was unable, for whatever reason, to make contact, get any signatory from the district to actually sign on the agreement. I'm confident that wouldn't happen now. So we've improved our practice, but I think it's fair to say, unfortunately, we're still kind of being penalized for past mistakes. Most of them we've righted, but this is one of the ones where it's like, wow, dang, this isn't great. This is nobody's fault who's in the administration, but we do need to sort it out. And I think it is worth noting, this was a unforced error where wouldn't it have been better if the town of Northfield in fact said, well, if we can't get anybody in the district to sign, we obviously can't go forward with the project. We don't have their agreement to do so. And I think that's what we would insist upon now is well, no, nobody signed for it. But that's the past. But I think there's some important context there, and how we, need to continue to enhance communication and the relationship. So compared to the past. But I think administratively, we wouldn't allow this to happen now. And of course, there's a huge part that's Eversource's, right? I mean, we had lengthy discussions, and I actually thought from the beginning that this was so ridiculous that ultimately we wouldn't have to pay, because, I mean, generally this isn't how things work, right? Like, no one from the district signed. Now you're telling us, well, here's the bill, though. And we had those discussions. Their legal counsel wants to pursue it and says, these are your bills, you have to pay them. At this time where public education's at and funding and all the different concerns, certainly it's strange that Eversource, who I think has more financial resources than any individual school district, but the point and the problem with Eversource is this has happened at a bunch of places, districts, towns, etc. So this isn't one place. This is probably, many millions of dollars, and so that's why they're pursuing things so aggressively. But I do think it's worth noting publicly that a multi hundreds of millions dollar company is playing hardball with a regional school district. But that's where we're at, and the work was done, and so for the PVRS bill, we recognize that the work was actually done. The bill for this building, our plan moving forward is to negotiate with Eversource regarding the total amount owed. And so we're going to do that. We're obviously going to try to strike the best deal possible for the district, and we're going to work really hard to not pay the full amount, because any reasonable person would see that this is the type of thing that if it gets in the papers, right, it's a very large company bullying a small school district with a bill that was only presented to them 5 years after the work was done. It's not a good look. So we'd like to take care of it, though, but we do think that we have some ability to negotiate the amount down, and we'll do that as hard as we can. So that's one piece of the next step. Another piece of next steps is discussing with the town of Northfield the fact that the project, the energy efficiency project, is installation of tens of thousands of dollars of energy efficiency equipment into the town-owned Northfield Elementary School building, right? There's no two ways about it. That's a capital project. Our district agreement is clear who pays for capital projects. The town does. My assumption is the other member towns don't want us to start paying for capital projects willy-nilly for an individual town. So we're not going to do that, and we're going to have district legal counsel prepare written guidance about that. And our assumption is we'll be able to work this out. But that bill, well, of course, we hope our colleagues in Northfield can negotiate that bill down as well. But that's just not our bill because it's a capital project in a town-owned elementary building. Yeah, so frustrating situation, but certainly welcome any questions.
What exactly was the work done? What
Um,
was done exactly? What type of energy efficient?
That's a reasonable question. So there's some refrigeration stuff, right? In another frustrating aspect that I conveyed to the people at Eversource is, well, guess what? We have new freezer coolers in both of those buildings. So whatever was done with the refrigeration, because I don't know what else we're freezing, we're no longer benefiting from it. And I was explicit that is precisely why you would want district representatives to be very involved in any process of what energy efficiency project, because people would have been able to tell you, well, actually, the freezer coolers are on their last legs, so doing any of that isn't great. So that equipment might be in a landfill somewhere, or salvage for recycling. So that's kind of, I think that's a great question. That really gets to the point of the frustration why the district needs to be involved in determining what type of capital projects would be beneficial. Yep. So
Is there evidence that Andrea did reach out? Are there emails that went out to the school committee? Was she under the gun so much that she had to sign it immediately? It sounds like hard to, I just don't understand how she had to sign it so quickly that we wouldn't have even known that.
I can't, say for certain. I think that there's likely two pieces, right? I think that we can all agree that that's not the best way to do it. If you can't reach out and make contact, you can't do the thing, right?
But I guess I wonder,
because you don't have the appropriate authority in terms of the PVRS building, right?
Yeah.
The town-owned building and the capital project that happens there can, that's to their discretion, but it can't then be paid for through the operating budget of the district because it's a capital project. So the funding mechanism, and I didn't really do this very articulately, but the funding mechanism is, okay, once the project's done, to pay for the capital project, it goes on your electricity bill. Well, the electricity bill is an operating expense paid for by the entire district. So that's not the appropriate way to bill it because it's a capital expense. So that's going to be part of the process. We're going to need to figure out how to do that differently. And so I think that in terms of the two pieces, the one is, we shouldn't do it. Either you get the appropriate approval or you don't do it. That's one piece. And the second piece is, it does sound like potentially that things were different then and things weren't run as efficiently. And maybe, in fact, there were agreements, but nothing put in writing. Again, that just wouldn't happen, right?
but Andrea is still the administrator, so it's not, I'm just confused because are we saying that now, so Northfield will be responsible for paying the full amount because it was never approved by a school committee?
For NES.
Just for NES.
Sorry, and the reason for NES isn't because of us not having any approval. It's because it's a capital project that we just can't pay legally because it's in a town-owned building. Capital project, town-owned building is the responsibility of the towns.
Right.
But PVRS outstanding balance would come out of the
District.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about it until
September. So surprise,
Yeah,
we have
5 years
a
later.
new bill
$50,000.
5 years later. It was signed by someone who didn't have the authority to sign, but it was under a different school committee, different administration.
Does Andrea communicate effectively now to the school committee? Or do we have to ever worry about this happening again?
Well, I think that's what we are going to attempt to address,
Yeah.
is making sure in the next steps that this doesn't happen again.
Yep, that's a good point. I think that will be part of it.
And it's important, so first, as you can imagine, Jordan's been managing this beautifully, right? Lots of conversations, our attorney, Eversource, the town. Thank you. It is the case, and you have links in the memo, that the only documents we've seen have a single signature, as Jordan has said. There's no signature. I don't know if there are emails that they've not been produced that would document that there had been conversations. In the most recent conversation with Mrs. Lamas, there was movement towards an understanding that the town will need to be responsible for this, and how might the town be able to pay for it. The town puts in $25,000 for kind of a placeholder for capital projects at NES. Perhaps in the coming year, if we don't, I don't think we have a capital project we've identified. We sometimes do carpets.
Not in that additional 25. So this is like an additional 25,000. So we have some capital projects like we talked about, the awning. So that's already in the budget, and then they have an additional 25,000 if unforeseen things should come up, as they tend to on quite old buildings.
It is important that we make clear that there have been conversations with the town administrator. In the most recent conversation, I think we've had a verbal understanding. This really is the town's responsibility. How can we help? There is that $25,000. Perhaps that's how the town uses the money. So I don't want you to think that we haven't had, that the town administrator hasn't been receptive to our position that this is a town responsibility.
As part of our negotiating, would it be, I could volunteer to make a kindergarten style drawing to Eversource
Right.
and ask them, what they would want to take away from our kids because of their vigility in profit making. But thank you.
Right. Yes.
So, just so I'm clear, so the original contract stipulated that part of the billing process would be to add those surcharges to the energy bills?
Yep.
And that hasn't happened for the last 5 years?
That's correct. No billing.
And they're
happened.
now saying, now you owe us all of this money that we haven't charged you for the last 5 years? Okay. All right. Just making sure that I'm understanding. Okay,
it
and they're
gives you
threatening legal action because we haven't paid their bill, a non-existent bill for the last 5 years that we didn't know about.
We didn't know about it.
Gives you some insight in which direction the legal system is tilted towards in our country.
Right.
Just saying.
Right.
Yeah. but yes, I mean, we are the recipients of the work. The work was done despite it never being billed for 5 years.
Despite having signed, without having signed a contract.
Yeah.
Right, without
Yeah.
a signed
Building that
Without a
contract
signed
owns.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The guidance we've received is yes, you in fact do owe that money, and we're not, and so we understand that. We take our financial responsibility seriously, and we'll negotiate on that point if since we apparently, the guidance we received do in fact owe on that bill, but we'll negotiate it down as far as we possibly can. Obviously 0 will be the goal. Let's see if we can get there.
Okay. Thank you for the work on that. Okay.
I think it was different. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that
Green
was grant
communities.
funded.
It could be green communities.
got a bunch of grants. That's what I thought Northfield did too, to cover these energy improvements. It was around that time.
These are the types of things that the town's been active with.
Yeah.
We're not an Eversource customer.
Right.
We're just on the
So
other
there's
side,
no
so I'm
vote
sitting here
here.
saying,
Ooh.
but sometimes location doesn't
Correct.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, location.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's our update that we had to share with you in regards to a bill.
Yep.
All
So
right.
more updates to come.
More updates
Thank
to
you.
come.
All right.
District strategic plan. Approval of vendor vote. So the district strategic plan, we decided as a school committee that it might be advantageous for us to look into a vendor to run the process and solicit different vendors that would be interested in running that process for us. So we identified 4 different possible vendors, and after we had some interviews and reviewed the proposals, the small kind of working committee for the district strategic plan decided on the collaborative for educational services. And so we were given a budget, and that budget was between $10,000 and $15,000. CES worked with Patricia, and Patricia worked with CES to narrow down who would do what work, what would that work look like, so we are looking to enter into a contract with them so that we can finally have a district strategic plan, right? And start really looking at what our district is going to look like. Okay. Did I miss anything?
That's great.
Who was on the committee? I know we are
Myself,
the working group,
Melissa, and Stephanie.
Nice. Thank you for doing that work. That's.
I just want to ask, MASC doesn't do this?
They don't do the strategic planning. They do more like for us, like if we needed, but not our district coming up with a plan. Like
like a Tracy Novak.
No, like they would come and train us for
They work on goal planning,
and things like
school
but for
committee
our-
governance issues.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with CES for development of a district strategic plan.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's that. Personnel update.
This is again a very small list here.
Okay. Yep. Enrollment.
There was a family that moved out of Northfield. It's a family that seasonally comes back and forth.
Granular. Okay. All right. Great. There we go. Okay. And other business not anticipated by the chair at the time of posting. I don't have any business other than what has been on our agenda. Okay, upcoming meetings. Our next full school committee meeting is May 8th at 6 o'clock. And I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. If anyone be so inclined.
I'll do it. I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2, 3, 4, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teachers Association and support personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, as she does. And Mass General Law, Chapter C30A, S22FG, approval of executive session minutes from February 13th, of 2025, March 6th, 2025, March 13th, 2025, and vote on them to return to open session at the end of executive session.
I'll second.
Okay. And we need a roll call vote.
Michelle Giarrusso, yes.
Melissa Osborne, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.